Well, welcome in everyone to the live reaction show number 60 with myself, Steve Wyss, and I'm with the charismatic Jack Wright. I think that's once how I described you as on a tweet from
Once
the
you did,
previous.
Steve.
How are you doing, Jack? How are you doing today?
Absolutely superb. Absolutely superb. What a great week for me to be on the show.
Yeah, I mean, there's a lot of drama going on recently, and we're going to be talking about several key incidents from the weekend. But first things first, we've got to get into some bets, Jack, because
100%.
we're coming on earlier this week, so we can be primed for this match in the Premier League. Tottenham Hotspur against Newcastle United, 3 minutes until kickoff.
Yeah.
What are your thoughts on this game? Have you got any best bets that someone could get on now, just before this match is going to start, or at the start of the game?
Yeah, mate, there's a couple I do like, actually. A little bit off-piste to the normal. So, obviously, Son is in the team, which is key, I think. That could tip it in Spurs' favour if anyone's looking for an outright winner. Maybe suck it and see for the first 10 or 15 minutes on this one. Obviously, he's been past fit to play, but doesn't necessarily mean he's going to make the 90 with Charleston in as well. So, interesting selections there. And poor old Newcastle, wrap them up and push them out again. They go again, unchanged, aren't they? So, how they're doing it, we'll see. But they looked dead on their feet in that defeat against Everton, didn't they, in midweek? And they've got a big game coming up in the following week, this coming week. So what I do like, though, is Spurs' right back, Pedro Porro, to have over 1.5 shots, which I think is just a fraction plus money last time I checked. And you can also
plus 112 the last time I checked.
Beautiful. Love it. Over 1.5 shots. He's had the most shots of any defender in the Premier League. 24 last time I checked on that one as well. So a regular pot shotter. He's very advanced, very high up. Any of these sides that play this system, like Villa, we do a lot with Matty Cash. Exactly the same principles apply for this guy. Over 0.5 shots on target, if you want to be a bit more bold, possibly. And if you really want to go for some bigger plus money, then him to have an assist, because he's going to be on their corners. So I like that. I'm all the way out the Porro in this one, as you can tell.
Plus 550. Plus 550 for Porro to have an assist. I also like the assist market for Kieran Trippier. Plus 330 to have an assist. This Spurs defense doesn't convince me, to be honest. I like the idea of over goals in this, but I was listening to the pre-match interviews with the managers. Ange Postecoglou has promised that Spurs will defend more responsibly in this game. Now, whether it can live up to that is a different question entirely. But I mean, they've been so frantic recently that I just wonder, are they going to be a little bit more cautious in Newcastle games away from home?
Steve.
Well, yeah, he probably is actually. But Newcastle away games do often go under, so I'm not going to touch the over/under. I'll tell you what, I will give you 2 bets though for games. There's a match in Germany that's going to kick off soon. Right. It is my hot dog of the week on the European show, under 2 Asian goals. But for those who want a more conventional bet, I reckon under 2.5 at plus 102 could be worth having a look. There's actually been a goal in the game I'm watching right now. Lyon are actually ahead against Toulouse, just scoring. It's Lacazette with a header, who's just giving them a lead. I was going to talk on about this game in a minute, but a goal for Lyon.
I remember us talking off there, Steve. You were going to say Lacazette with a header in the first goal scorer. That's what you were going to say, wasn't it? I remember you saying
Mystic
that now.
Meg. I am Mystic Meg, yeah. Yeah, so under 2.5 goals, Co-Mainz. I really like that.
Yeah.
I'm watching.
Love your unders these days.
Well, because we win is like the home of unders, isn't it? There was a tweet that went around last week.
Yeah.
I think you got to adapt. Adapt, Jack, because you've got to pick your spots. I think under. I've never bet so many unders in the last couple of months myself, and that's mostly because France has been low scoring, and I think certain Bundesliga games are now the value is more in terms of under. There's another game I want to highlight that kicks off at 5 p.m. UK time, so midday Eastern, and this is in Italy. It's Salernitana against Bologna. Salernitana are one of my tips to go down this season. I don't rate them at all. I think they're a terrible side. And I don't think Bologna are an amazing price on the money line at minus 115, but I reckon they win. Salernitana have won 1 match all season. I think they're right for the taking. The draw is the obvious risk, but surely Salernitana at the stage of the season, they need to be going for wins rather than settling for draws.
This is the one we talked about during the week, isn't it? The fact that there's they're addicted to draws.
They are addicted to draws, but if you look at where they've got their draws, they've got a draw at Inter, for example. That's a hell of a result these days.
Yeah.
Salernitana did beat Lazio at home last time, and I got stung on that day. But, I think, one swallow doesn't make a summer, does it? As the old saying goes. So I reckon Bologna could be worth backing there, Jack. And just want to welcome everyone who's live with us, by the way. We're live on Twitter and YouTube today. So if you are watching on Twitter and you want to get in touch with us on the comments, click that YouTube link, subscribe to the channel if you're not already, and then get in the comments and ask us some questions. We've got one already from Holden's Horses.
Who's that?
Various. Do the boys think the cruel 10-point deduction will rob Everton the Champions League football? They would be top half, I do believe. After their great win today against Newcastle, 2-0. We're going to talk about Premier League reaction soon. But just, before these games are getting going, anything else that would catch your eye on some bets at all, Jack? I mean, we talk about, if I was to say over or under in this Newcastle Spurs game, the line, it's strong minus money for over 2.5 goals even after 3 minutes. Which direction would you go?
Strong minus money under 2.5. Yeah, I'd be leaning towards the under, to be fair. But I think I'd have to keep my powder dry and look to get a better price, or say a better line. Maybe if there's an early goal, go under then, or say if there's not, then potentially get a better line, because it could open up the second half. I think what we saw with Newcastle the other night, I mentioned at the start, isn't it? They are the walking wounded. They've been wrapped up, bandaged up, and with the energy gels in and packed off out again. So unchanged, he would 100%. He would have been changing personnel in this game if he could. He obviously feels he can't, and I think therefore, especially with high energy Spurs, and they've got a couple of decent players on the bench that they can bring on, I think they could well be interesting to play later in the game.
Ooh, bloody hell, Mike's nearly scored a goal there after 3 minutes. I don't know how this has stayed out, actually. A very worrying moment for an underbacker. Some guy brings it down, and it's a hell of a block as it's going into the back of the net. Mainz in the ascendancy early on there. Yeah, under 3 goals is the Asian line in running at the Tottenham Hotspur Stadium. Okay. And that's even money right now.
Is it?
If you were like the under 3, yeah.
I think that's a play.
Yeah, I think you take your pick, can't you? Depends which way you think this game's going to go. I have to say, Lyon do look very good at the moment against Toulouse. I can't believe I'm saying that. They've not looked very good all season.
First time this season, isn't it?
And they are on the agenda later when we talk about League One relegation. But they just had one cleared off the line as well. So Lyon to lose the goal line there. In fact, actually, there is a second goal for Lyon. There is?
Wow.
Actually, I'm just a little bit behind on the stream here, but they have got in to a 2-goal lead for Olympique Lyonnais. Marcelo Martin has asked a question. Man United Bayern, how do you see this match going? Bayern doesn't need it, but Thomas Tuchel can take another defeat. Can Ten Hag survive another bad performance? We've got both of these teams on our agenda list today, and we will be talking about this on the Champions League preview show, which we're going to record tomorrow. Myself, Will White, and RJ. But let's take your take on it, Jack. How do you see that one going? Both teams need a result.
They do, and I tell you what, that's not a good result for Man United yesterday. Not necessarily their defeat, that's clearly terrible, but the fact that Bayern took a hammering yesterday, shock horror hammering, they're gonna want to get a answer back to that. I think so. That's not going to help them. And look, I think it's Bayern Munich. I don't think they're going to be resting on their laurels and want to cruise out via a defeat. They've got a sensational record in qualification in the Champions League. They want to keep that going. Harry Kane's going to want to get amongst the goals, and I think that they'll want to knock Man United out or be partly responsible for that.
Yeah, I'm still thinking about that game. I'm actually leaning towards goals in it, to be honest, Jack. I haven't got a clue who's going to win. We've got another question here from Villa Fan 20, I think has asked a few questions before on the show. He must be loving life. Emery has left for over a year now, not 5 minutes. Since then, the record is comparable to City. Why do people think we can't maintain it when we already have for so long? 2 clean sheets and wins against the top 2. This is where we're going to start the agenda anyway. Villa and the EPL title race. And that was my first question I was going to give you, Jack, today, really. Are Aston Villa a legitimate title challenger for the Premier League this year?
I think they can be, yes. I think they can be. Look, when you watch them playing at home, and Villa Fan 20 must be one of those that goes, that whole thing must be nagging a little bit, that people keep going on about their home and away form being contrasted. Their away form's not horrific. It's just not quite there. They're just dropping points, annoying points. So I think if that can be rectified and they can start winning the games you'd expect them to go and win away from home, if they can get anything near their home form, then absolutely they've got a great chance. But I tell you, I said it on the show in the week, they were plus money to get top 4, and I think that was the play because of just how.
I think Nigel highlighted it as well on the reaction show about 2 or 3 weeks ago that Villa were a big price to be in the top 4. And I mean, now I think I will check the price, but I think they're probably close to minus money for top 4.
Yeah.
They're actually with Bet Rivers plus 1,800 now to win the Premier League, which I mean, a few weeks ago, they were knocking on the door 50, 60, 70 to 1.
Yeah. Even at the weekend, even in the midweek show, again, we mentioned it. I asked the same question, can Villa be title challengers? I think the couple of issues are that away form's a little bit patchy. And also, as we progress through the season, their squad's not the biggest, but probably more importantly, Unai Emery's going to want to win a trophy, stick a trophy in the trophy cabinet. He loves his European trophies. They're hot favourites to win that European conference, and I think they will. And FA Cup, I think with a couple of the bigger sides already being paired up with each other, I think they've got a big, big chance in that. You imagine if Villa get a home draw every round up to the semi-finals, no one's going to want to go there. No one's going to go and fancy that. And I think they're a big price to go and do well in the FA Cup. I think they might just fall short as far as winning the title is concerned. But even to being in the conversation at the minute, I think is great testament. I'm a massive fan of what Emery's done at Villa. And I think for him to be able to be in that conversation at this stage is sensational work.
Yeah, I would agree with that. I have to say, after beating Arsenal, I'm going to have to take them a bit more seriously now. I thought it was a great performance against City, but City are not at their best at the moment, as today proved. But I think to beat City and Arsenal back-to-back 1-0, you've got to look at that and you think, that deserves, merits some respect. And I've kind of been, I've never been that high on Villa in the last couple of years. I've not been low on them either.
Yeah.
But I never believed they could really be a top 4 team. But he's done remarkably. The organisation of the defence is crazy. That line is so good. I'm looking back. Did they have a bit of luck that Tyrone Mings got injured? I just can't imagine Tyrone Mings being in this system as good as the current 4 that are. I mean, he's got rid of Matty Cash now.
Yeah.
Thompson
was sensational at right back over there. And I think the central defenders look exceptional, strong, bit of pace about them. They won't get bullied by anyone. And they can do, say that.
Douglas Luiz in midfield. He's the next big midfielder for me. Like he's developed that. Villa are very good at home. Like you wouldn't bet against them at Villa Park, but you're right. Away from home is a problem. I mean, Bournemouth should have beaten them.
Yeah.
I mean, they legitimately outplayed Villa. And that's a concern for me, despite Bournemouth improving recently. I think it's away from home is probably why we think that they can't win the league.
Yeah. I think if Villa had look, they've done brilliantly to win both those title contending games, pressure on, because after beating City, again, Nigel mentioned it on the show midweek, that suddenly the eyes are on them, the media are on them, he's fielding questions. Can you win the title? Are you in the title hunt? That suddenly changes the dynamic. And these players that are going there wanting to bloody the nose of one of those sort of title challenges are now amongst it themselves. And they've done it to do that back-to-back in the space of, 3 days is sensational. If one of them had been away, I think that would have been, completely gone, wow. They've gone to the Emirates and won there. I think that makes them absolutely cast iron in there. I think they just need to put a bit of a run together away from home, because at some point in time, they're going to have a little bit of a dip at home, because they're obviously, 15 successive home wins now. So absolutely sensational. But I mentioned it on the show. I think they were 40-1 on the show midweek. And I said it's a great trading position, because if they beat Arsenal, they're going to get halved, and they've been more than halved. Yeah,
there's 4 teams, obviously, clear now in the top 4. And Bet Rivers go Man City to win the title at -112. Arsenal plus 300, Liverpool plus 325, and Villa plus 1,800. If I give you a free $100 Roebuck bet, as they're known on the EPL show, and this question goes to anyone watching, put it in the comments. Who do you think is going to win the Premier League title? Where's the value right now with them 4? If you were to have that free bet right now, who you staking it on, Jack? Just straight on the nose.
Yeah, it's interesting that someone mentioned this in my comments today about Man City. That they're going to come good and they're going to deliver. And to can you pull the trigger at just around about even money. They're just obviously shade of minus money, aren't they, to win it? On what we see at the moment, you'd probably say no, but we expect Man City to do what Man City do continually, and in the second half of the season, just string those results together. I think again, I heard about it during the week. The fact that you potentially these City players are a little bit bored at the moment. The games they had at the back end of last season, you had a quarter final of the FA Cup, then you had a league game against, say, Arsenal. You win that, and then you nip and tuck with Arsenal. You then have a big cup game. You have a big cup game in Europe. It's one huge game after the other, and obviously they won the league, won the FA Cup, won the Champions League. You got all those massive games which bring the top players to the fore. You come into the start of the season and suddenly it's a little bit, it's Bournemouth, or it's Nottingham Forest at home. We'll get a couple of goals, we'll concede. And I think it's just took their edge off slightly. And you say once these big games start coming in the second half of the season, you would expect them then to up their levels again. But if I was having a free bet, I wouldn't be wanting to take that minus money at this moment in time. So that Arsenal and Liverpool, they've both been.
For me, I'd have the $300 bet on Liverpool.
I'll go Arsenal.
I just think they. I just think I'm not convinced by all of them actually. To be honest, I think they've all got some issues. It might be that a lower point total is needed to win the Premier League this year, like 85, 86 points maybe could be enough if these teams keep taking points off each other. But Liverpool and Arsenal, they've been scoring a lot of late goals this year, and that's a good and a bad sign.
Yeah. Is it sustainable? That's the question, isn't it? And
I know it is. I know. I think Liverpool's issue, the defence. I think there's not enough clean sheets for my liking there. Arsenal, for me, need to perhaps show the Champions League form a bit more.
Yeah.
I think the offense isn't clicking all the time. A long way to go. Man City will come good. They will improve. They always do. Come spring and the new year. But until the Club World Cup's done, I'm not interested in them really. See what they do there. But top four, by the way, Villa plus 175 in that market, and Manchester United are plus 450 to be in the top four. Jack, I don't know if you'd be interested in that, but I wasn't even going to talk about Man United on this reaction show today. But yesterday
they forced you.
Yeah, I mean, last week we had Simon Holden on the reaction show, and he made some very good points about Man United and Ten Hag. Was very critical about them. He said the value is on Ten Hag. In the next manager to go market. The problem is there's other managers under pressure right now.
Yeah.
Paul Heckingbottom got sacked last Monday. At the moment, Steve Cooper's still the favourite. Yeah, finally he bit the dust, and they've actually got a win without him. But you've got Steve Cooper's odds on favourite. He always seems to be close to the edge, and then Ten Hag's at 5-4 generally across the board. Yeah. Can you survive losing 3-0 at home to Bournemouth, or is the result of that match against Bayern in midweek going to be the most important thing, and not just necessarily the result there, but where they finish in their group?
Yeah, I just think that their results are going to remain inconsistent throughout the course. And at 1 minute you look like he's lost the dressing room, then they put in a bit of a performance that goes, actually maybe they're up for it. We saw that in midweek, didn't we? That performance against Chelsea was probably their best of the season.
They dominated Chelsea, and I'm thinking, they should have scored 3 or 4 goals.
Yeah,
and I'm thinking, they're back. And then you look at Chelsea, who defy logic for me. Like that squad, how the hell is that squad performing so
with that manager as well? We've talked about it as well.
But maybe it was a mask because Chelsea can produce stinkers. Yeah. Maybe that was just the anomaly for Manchester United because yesterday, which is horrendous.
Well, Chelsea got booed off by their fans at Old Trafford, didn't they? Which said it all about that performance. And I just think that United are kind of waiting for this behind the scenes stuff to be rectified, and then possibly we will see a change. But it can't, as a team club like Manchester United, constantly in this situation where they're getting embarrassing results. Old Trafford was a fortress, wasn't it? For the last 2 seasons, they went 31 games unbeaten there. It was incredible, and they've been beaten 6 times this season at home. And I think you can get away with it to a certain extent if you're throwing in some dodgy performances away from home because you've got 2,000, 3,000 of your supporters there and 40,000, of the opposition. So it kind of gets lost a little bit. But when you're at home, when you've got all your season ticket holders there, they've got 80,000 fans in that ground, and they're throwing in stinking performances. Fortunate, I think, to get beat 3-0 yesterday by all accounts. So that can't continue. And when you're under pressure at home and the home fans turn, then it tends to be when the powers that be will make the decision because they don't want it to then come to them. They get asked to make a call, and the manager's the one that always pays the price.
How do you approach betting on Manchester United games now, Jack? And Chelsea I'm going to throw into the mixer as well, because they're teams that can be wildly inconsistent. You don't know which version of them is going to show up on the day. Often overrated by the books. And the reason for that is because the squad quality is there. And when they do fire, it would be a gift if the books offered significantly more. Now, for me, there's two strategies you do here. Either you can occasionally get a good read on when they're going to perform and when they're not, or secondly, just leave their games alone, right? Put them on the crap list, whatever you want to call it.
It's called the naughty list.
What's the naughty list actually this time? Yeah. What is your strategy for dealing with Manchester United and Chelsea games and teams of a similar ilk?
Well, this week it was the wrong strategy because I obviously had them as both teams to score this week, and it flopped, unfortunately. I generally thought their games tend to be a bit chaotic. They do tend to have goals in them, and they do tend to happen at both ends. They're inconsistent, and when there's inconsistency, you do get mistakes and you do get those kind of upsets. So, yeah, I've not really been pro, other than the first game of the season. I remember I was on United in first game of the season, and since then I can't remember a time when I've been pro Man United, other than potentially, like I say, as far as a goal situation are concerned. And I was fading Chelsea for much of the first part of the season, and then thought that we'd get that stage where Pochettino would start to turn the corner and get more consistent results. But it's at this moment in time, it's win 2, lose 2, isn't it? So you've got to try and pick it at the right time. Where there's value, possibly in a big handicap, like Luton went to Old Trafford the other week, didn't they? And they lost 1-0. So that would have been covered on their handicap. So that side of things, they're not able to really go and blow sides away. But generally, I think, just a little bit of chaos. If I had to have a bet on their games at the moment, I'd probably explore the goals angle, if anything, unless there was just an anomaly in the price, where sometimes you get one of those sides, like Brentford, for example, at home, where they're kind of regarded as a bit of a lower ranked side, where they're actually pretty strong at home. You get a United or a Chelsea go there, they don't fancy it, they'll get rolled over.
Yeah, I just sense it's a bit of a tricky time in Premier League. There's been some weird results recently across the board. Some teams at the bottom have been getting points, or they've been keeping it close in games. Again, handicap winners, Sheffield United winning. Luton have put up some tremendous fights recently.
Let me just throw Fulham into that equation while you're talking about bizarre.
I was going to ask you about Fulham, because it's something I've actually thrown it out to the board on Twitter today. What is going on there? Because they were, I thought, a really poor side for most of this season, and then they suddenly come alive. I mean, what? They've won back-to-back games, 5-0.
Yeah.
Okay, it's only Forest, but West Ham are a decent side. They just beat Spurs. What's going on?
You wouldn't expect West Ham to get torn apart like that, would you? You'd possibly go, well, Fulham can get a positive result out of this one, given that West Ham put a lot in at Spurs, but not to that extent. But now they come on the radar that you're going, they're a side that are in form for scoring goals. It might be too late to jump on board now, but certainly one to consider. Where it was a case that you were going, well, when they're involved in a game, you're probably looking at an unders, or you're looking at under team goals, or you're looking at both teams to score no. That's now one of the options that's probably going to be taken off the table, because you can't rely on them to do that. How they're going at the moment. Obviously, both teams to score no, ironically, would have hit in the last 2 games against them or with them, but the wrong way around as such. So,
there's a penalty. There's just been a penalty, Jack, in the Lyon game. And initially, I thought this was a ridiculous decision, but it is actually a legit keeper foul. Right. Lyon have played so well in this half.
Yeah.
And they just conceded a penalty.
That's what happens
literally,
when you're at the bottom.
It's stoppage time of the first half. Anthony Lopez, who is a keeper I generally rate, has just kind of rushed out and committed this foul. And this is going to be so Lyon if they concede this goal. Okay. Last week, there was 2 penalties live on air on the reaction show, and they both got missed at this hour. So I don't know whether Lyon fans...
smile on your face.
Well, yeah, I was very lucky last week. I don't have anything on this game, but if I was a Lyon backer, I'd be fuming here, because they've dominated this game.
So after this penalty, give us your pick, because is it a chance? Is it a chance now to go and oppose Lyon in the second half?
It's going to be half-time whistles as soon as this kick gets taken. Delinger's over the kick. There'll be quite a few people watching who probably backed Teals Delinger anytime scorer, because he's a popular one. He's missed 2 of his last 3 penalties, according to the stats and the data, and he's stepping up now. It's a bit like Soccer Saturday, this, isn't it?
I tell you, honestly, yeah.
The referees putting the players in their
we'll
places.
Stay with you, Steve, this penalty.
This takes forever, doesn't it? Just setting the players up. The referee's doing this, and this, and finally he's going to blow his whistle. He's blown his whistle now. Dalinga's going to step up. Is he going to score for Toulouse? It's saved.
Oh, wow!
Saved by Lopez. Is again another penalty save in Ligue. Both teams score backers. Not happy. There will be a replay, of course, because you can't celebrate anything these days. But drama at Lyon. In fact, it might have to be retaken.
Oh, wow!
It might have to be retaken. Whilst we do that, we're gonna move on to, Jack. I suppose we better move to European matters while we're here. Bayern Munich yesterday, and this is where I don't often apologise, but I will apologise for a pick that I gave out on the show. It was one of my biggest, strongest fancies of the year, actually. Bayern München away against Frankfurt. I thought it was a great spot for them, but it was an horrendous performance. I don't know what on earth went wrong. Defense was all over the place. It looked a great chance for them to close the gap to Leverkusen. And Leverkusen have dropped points today as well. A 1-1 draw against Stuttgart, although it was a good point. They were, trust me, they were battered in the first half there, although produced a very good second half. I don't know. I've had a lot of people ask me about Bayern now, saying, "Oh, you can't trust Thomas Tuchel," and I'm kind of regretting that I did, because he's not a manager who I've ever had a great read on. I think he's very inconsistent. Is this the year Bayern don't win the Bundesliga, Jack? I mean, I don't know. I've been thinking about it. Leverkusen are up there; they're well managed, and Harry Kane is a sort of a trophy avoidance player, isn't he? But for me, it's the defense.
Go against them.
It's the defense for me. They give up too many chances. Upamecano, for me, is an accident waiting to happen. Yeah, I know he has some good games, but he makes too many mistakes as well. That penalty save, by the way, has been upheld. It was a close call. It was a close call, but Anthony Lopez makes the save. What is it about missed penalties in Liga on this reaction show right now, Jack? But in terms of... have you been following the progress of Xabi Alonso at Leverkusen?
I have.
Everyone's saying now, like, if a big team wants to sack someone, the next cab off the rank is Xabi Alonso at Leverkusen. What do you think?
Well, the talk is, and I've known someone who's been very keen on Alonso and tipped him up to be the next Real Madrid manager. Ancelotti's supposed to be going off to Brazil, isn't he, to manage the
that's the talk.
And he's the heir apparent for Los Blancos. So, but as you say, if there's a bigger, or not a bigger side, that'd be tough to do, wouldn't it? If there's one of the elite sides across Europe that pulls the trigger mid-season, then surely they'd be wanting to speak to Alonso. Whether he'd be, what discussions he's already had as far as going back to Spain or not, we don't know. But if that isn't a given at this moment in time, then I'm sure he'd want to speak to some of these teams that would come in for him. Excellent stuff. He performs incredibly well. I've done a lot of stuff on Leverkusen because they've been a side I'd like to back over the course of this season, and they've not disappointed really. They've stuttered a little bit in the last couple of weeks, so it might be one of those sides again that I think as they progress in Europe, those games start to take their toll on a squad. So I think they'd do well again to run Bayern close, but I don't see them actually getting
plus 335 to win the Bundesliga. Stuttgart 50-1, and Bayern Munich minus 500. I think there's been a goal to Tottenham Hotspur Stadium.
I was then going to ask you about the
Destiny Udogie. Udogie is on the score sheet. It's from a corner.
There
hadn't looked like a goal coming.
Who took the corner?
I'm just trying to find. Look now. Would it be? I don't know whether it's a touch in between or not, Jack. I was just focusing on the stats from the Lyon game at half time. I have to look at the replay here. But Udogie is the man who's celebrating the goal.
Yes.
No, it wasn't from a corner. What am I looking at? I've got 3 games on the go here.
Yeah. my screen just got off. So
I'm trying to look here. I think it's Son with the assist. If it is an assist, Son gets on the left hand side, and Udogie with the finish in the back of that. Spurs lead.
Those of you that have captained Heung-min Son in their fantasy dream teams this week. An assist.
Well, he wasn't even expected to be fit to
No.
start the game. So that would be a risk. A big goal. I'll update with the odds for the Spurs game in a minute. But well, I was going back to Leverkusen. I don't believe Xabi Alonso would move mid-season. I saw in Richard Keys' recent blog, he suggested that Man United should just sack Ten Hag now and offer him Saudi money, in his words, to Alonso mid-season right now to come. But I don't think he could be tempted by any club right now, unless it was Real Madrid. Yeah, literally at this moment in time. So
is Manchester United? I'm sure Manchester United fans will be jumping up and down, going, "Of course we are." Are Manchester United at this moment in time, with everything that's going on there, as a manager with high stock, and Ten Hag, let's not forget, was being raved about and talked up to the hills while he was at Ajax, performing great football, big shocks in the Champions League, and scoring goals for fun. He's gone to Manchester United and, well, look, he won a trophy last season. Let's not forget that. But it's been a turmoil for him, hasn't it, over the course? You know, would a manager that's on the way up want to be at this moment in time wanting to go and take on Manchester United, or do these guys think, well, look, I'm going to be better? You have the confidence in your own ability when you're that elite.
There's always going to be, those that come for the money. Although the talk was Ten Hag didn't go for the money because he's like a rich millionaire already, or whatever was the paper talk, wasn't it? But by the way, let's look at these odds for Newcastle now. Spurs have famously led in all of their last few games. It 1-0, and then it ended up getting not won any of them.
Yeah,
Newcastle are plus 600 to win on the money line now. And now that's a price which might tempt if you, based on the pattern of play in Spurs' recent games. Minus 250 Spurs. You wouldn't be backing that, would you, based on what they've been doing?
No, as I said, my concern with Newcastle is the fact that they're likely to get weaker as the game goes on. So when you need to kind of dig deep and weather the storm and then come back firing, I don't know if they've got it in the legs at the moment. I just feel that they're as I said, they're being pushed to the limit, and they've got another big game coming up in midweek, as we said, Champions League. So it's a tough one on that. Again, I think that it suits the unders as far as, can I see Newcastle firing back into this one? Possibly not. And will Tottenham go, we need to hold on to a win? That then becomes a bit more of a mentality thing. And rather than actually going to get 2, 3, 4 goals, I get nervous when you look up there like that, Steve. I'm
just looking. I'm trying to find some prices for this Lyon to lose in running. The goal line's between 3.5 and 3.25.
Okay.
Because initially, my thoughts were at half time. It's been an open half. We've had a missed penalty. Toulouse have got to come out. So I'm thinking more goals, but Bet Rivers aren't daft. The goal line is there, right where it should be, really. Over 3.5 is minus 103. Yeah. So you need 2 goals in the second half. And I know there's more added on time these days. Not so much in France, by the way. I would much rather be on 3.25. So it's sort of wait 10 minutes and see what happens. It should have been a second goal for Spurs, but it's missed by Sarr, I think it was. It looks to me all Spurs from what I've been
Have you seen? It's interesting to note that we were talking. Obviously, I picked Pedro Porro for my shots selection at the top of the show. Interesting to note that all the other defenders have had a shot. Ben Davies.
Well, there's still time. He should have had an assist there. That should have been the assist. Should have come in for you, Jack.
Mate, there you go.
What can you say?
Fine margins. You can only find your angle.
Fine. Mainz against Mainz is still 0-0, but I tell you what, there's been chances. It's been a nervous watch as an underbacker. Mainz are definitely in control of this game right now. I think I don't know what the exact stats are for shots.
So they've had 5 shots, 2 shots on target. They won 4 corners to 0. They've had 56% of the ball. Just 1 shot from Cone so far. So
they hit the post as well. So
XG of 0.69. So
it's a nervous. If there's a goal coming there, it probably would be at the Mainz end, but neither team are usually that reliable. Nervous one. Are you
taking the money on Mainz here? They're plus money to win.
Based on the pattern of play, they're the most likely team to win this game right now. Mainz. They've got a new manager recently, Jan Siewert. You remember him at Huddersfield, won't you? Very poor record there, although I don't think anyone could have done much better. But he's defensive. He will go 5 at the back sometimes, but I think what he's done here is he counterattacks quite well. So Mainz are a team I've been watching out for in terms of both unders and an improvement in their form. I want to talk about France Ligue 1 before we go in about 15 minutes time, because I think probably the two teams that everyone is more interested in are Nice and Monaco right now, Jack. And they're two completely different sides. You got Nice, who hardly concede a goal, although they had a rare over today. They would have, quite a few would have no doubt done their dough on them in their match today, as Nigel says. And you got Monaco, who for me are more of a goal-scoring team. They don't look amazing, but they are getting results. And I get questions asked to me: who is the most likely to actually be, the challenging PSG? If anyone does, I don't think anyone will, because the PSG are just far too good in terms of the squad. But my actual answer, I don't think either team convinces me as like a really good team. And this has been the problem in France in the last 3 or 4 years, really. There's not been any another side that's just played really, really good football throughout the whole season, Jack.
Yeah.
So
don't think be anyone that can drive the advantage home, that, PSG are going to throw in a performance, a stinker every now and again. There don't seem to be anyone there that can consistently eat away at them and keep the pressure on them. And they know they can do that. They know they can lose a game or two and they're still going to be 6 points clear. And so foundations are built from the back, aren't they? You can't ask for much.
Minus 2,000 PSG. I mean, minus 2,000. You're not going to get rich quickly back in that. But it is. I mean, I don't like to use.
Where's your money to finish? Like, say they're going to win it, which I think the odds are justified. Who comes second?
Well, I'm actually looking a little bit elsewhere. The big advantage that Monaco, and this is a big chance for Newcastle to equalise, but Almiron is straight, the goalkeeper. Just starting to show signs of this game opening up at Tottenham Hotspur Stadium.
Tell you what, I just quickly looked at, Steve. One that did caught my eye. Bearing in mind what we talked about with this game back in the Bundesliga, just an interesting one is the halftime result. And when you got a side that's dominating, and we're going to take it that we want them to, they're going to go and win the game. If they're going to win the game, it's likely that they're going to get one for half time, because come the second half, managers get in there, tweak things around a little bit, and we could see a different second half. If you do fancy a slice of Mainz, then it's plus 410 last time I then checked on a half-time win. So a goal for them before the interval. So I think, again, to coin another Nigel.
Just had another chance as well, Mainz, from a corner. Yeah. They do look the most, certainly before. Things can change at half-time, as we
Absolutely.
know. That's probably not a bad bet, actually.
Yeah, plus 460.
For a little nibble.
Plus 460 with Bet Rivers at the moment for Mainz to take half the lead into the interval.
If you're watching on YouTube, or if you're on Twitter, then come over to YouTube. Ask us some questions if you want. We've got about 10 more minutes left on this show. Pick Jack Wright's brains whilst he's here. You mentioned, who do I think is going to finish second? Nice and Monaco have a big advantage. They're not in Europe. And I still, that for me, that's a big factor, which is a shame, because I would actually quite like Lens to have a decent run. If just say they get knocked out of Europe on week, and Sevilla will be going for third place, as they always do.
Yeah.
Right. Then I think Lens could be the side to watch out for. But if Lens end up in the Europa League, they could get a run to, say, the quarterfinals, and that's going to distract them. So I think I think in a lot of leagues now, as Cone should score here. No, it's blocked by the defender. This is all the action's going on in these games that I've got in Europe at the moment, Jack.
Yeah,
madness. Mate. Apologies.
Still stand strong there.
I was on one there, but I think we've got to wait and see which teams now stay in Europe and which teams don't. And this applies for a lot of European leagues. Newcastle could be a prime example as well if they get knocked out of Europe, or what competition they end up going in. So after that, I think is a better. Marseille should rebound at some point, but you wonder now whether the Europa League might be their priority going forward.
Yeah, I'm disappointed because I've got that's one of my pre-season bets, Marseille without PSG, and that's looking weak at the moment.
Oh, that was a big pick for me. For me, Marseille pre-season had the second best squad in the league.
Yeah,
no doubt about it. And I look at the squads on paper now; they're still right up there. But the 12 points to make up on Nice, I don't think Nice can be sustainable.
Yeah,
like they don't score enough goals. It's as simple as that. Eventually, Monaco might be a bit more, because Monaco have always got a bit of spending power for January. They'll always bring a couple of players in. They've got money galore. I mean, the sales for Monaco in the last few years has been remarkable.
Yeah,
Chelsea alone have funded. A lot of their
a lot of clubs afloat, to be fair, haven't they?
They have, yeah. So Monaco would be the fear. I don't particularly think Monaco is special, but they're doing the job well enough probably, at both ends of the field. So,
yeah,
that's probably the market to look at if you can get a betting with that PSG market. One other match I want to touch on before we finish the show, and it's in Europe tonight, La Liga Spain, Barcelona against Girona. And I would encourage anyone to check out the section we did on the European show this week. Will White's got a pick in that game. As Mainz come into the penalty area dangerously, I thought he was going to cut it across there, Jack. I thought he was going to come in for you. Really good watch. And, if Girona win this game tonight, they go top of the league because Real Madrid dropped points yesterday.
Yeah.
Don't know if La Liga is your sort of thing. If you were to have a second goal for Tottenham Hotspur, and you won't believe who scored this. Richarlison is on the score sheet. Shock, horror. I mean, this man scores once in a blue moon, doesn't he? But Spurs now with a 2. What is going on with Newcastle United?
Dead on their feet, mate. Dead on their feet.
Is it simply a case of they just don't have the players, Jack?
At this moment in time, as I said, we've said it 2 or 3 times already on the show today. They've been patched up. They've been sent out to battle again. They were dead on their feet against Everton. We mentioned it the last Champions League where they battled PSG to the 98th minute. That was a backs to the wall effort there, which took a lot out of them. But they did come back and then won their next game, didn't they? But since then, they actually battered Man United, although that was a 1-0 scoreline. That was the next game from that. But then they just ran out of steam against Everton, and looks like the same thing today. They're going to need some fresh players in January, which obviously they were going to be able to do.
I'm starting to almost fear for them in that Champions League game against Milan. I know they're at home, and I know that crowd can carry them, but the defense just seems they need they need the likes of Byrne and Botman.
Yeah.
And the other problem is these players, they can't give anyone a rest. But 2-0 Spurs, it looks like they're going to end this losing run, although I wouldn't put my mortgage on it knowing them. Weird things happen in Spurs games. But going back to this Barcelona fixture, Jack, I mean, you're a man who likes to bet in a big game. I know you. This game here, Barcelona are going to be a popular play, but because they're quite a big price. Is this sort of time in general to get with a big team, you think, when some doubt in them, thinking that the dog can get into them hard? Is this typically a time when big teams actually react and show what they're made of?
Yeah, generally, isn't it? Generally, like when there's that kind of element of doubt, that they will get the job done. Bearing in mind that they've been in fair enough form, isn't it? It's not if they're sitting down in 16th in the league and have been playing awful all season. They're up there, and this is a big game for them to go and win in their own. Well, not their own stadium, is it? But a home game at least, and. Then you would suggest so, but this seems like a tight one to me. So my views would be to potentially go and look on the plus handicap for Girona. Don't see too many goals in it.
Yeah, it's one of those games. I think everyone's going to have their eye on it because it's such a big fixture at that particular time. My personal take is I do think Barcelona come and fire in this one. They haven't converted their chances recently, and they've missed a lot of chances. Lewandowski, I don't know whether it's age or, I guess Father Time catches it with everyone. He just hasn't looked as sharp as in previous years. But there's no doubt he's getting into the positions and he's getting the chances. So I think they'll fire. But let's see. This Girona side are an interesting side to watch. That's for sure, Jack.
Yeah. Absolutely right. Yeah, don't concede too many goals away from home. Good record, 19 points from 7 games. So there's better judges than me in the La Liga, that is for certain. But from what I've seen and heard, the experts talk about the likes of Ruri, picking up pieces from there. That tends to be where I get my nuggets of information from. It's certainly an interesting one, but it's going to be a good game to watch, and we'll see how that one transpires. We're on both opposite sides of the fence for this one, it seems.
I've just seen an alarming stat in the Mainz game for anyone that's sort of a cone backer or even an under backer like myself. That Mainz's XG in the first 40 minutes is 1.84, which is remarkable. I mean, I've got to be honest, some of these Bundesliga XG stats, I think they're I'm like, what have they been drinking sometimes? Because they seem to go more than Stuttgart. I think had a first half XG there, like 3 point something today.
Yeah,
which did seem high. But it just shows you how strong Mainz have been in this game. They haven't been able to convert the chance yet, though. And I guess this is kind of why I took them on the under, really, because they do certain sides do have that knack. Yeah, well, 4 minutes to go until
4
half
minutes,
time,
yeah.
and 4 minutes to go until half time in the Spurs game as well. As Kulusevski has a shot on target. Before we go, we will give some suggestions about what you could look at getting on in the second half, potentially in the Spurs fixture. Still hopeful that your man Porro might pop up the way this Newcastle side have done it. Bologna have taken the lead against Salernitana, so that is a good start for me there in that game after 11 minutes. Salernitana down already against Bologna. One final thing before we go, Jack, about Premier League. Forgot to mention this earlier, the relegation market now. Everton winning again today.
Yeah.
There were points picked up by Sheffield United and Burnley this week, but and Luton have fought hard. But is it just simply a case of now? Is there just only one team that these can really catch, and that being Nottingham Forest, do you think?
It looks like it, doesn't it? I was thinking about this today, really, knowing that you were going to ask me about it. And it's a case of when you think a side's going to get dragged into the relegation fight, they just seem to put some good results together. We saw it with Bournemouth. We saw it with Fulham, who I thought potentially were going to get dragged into it because they couldn't score goals and they've gone bonkers. And you just feel that Nottingham Forest have enough about them, especially at home, that form will turn. And they don't need a lot. You don't need a lot to pull away at the moment because those sides at the bottom are struggling.
Plus 330 Forest. I mean, Everton are plus 250. Now, for me, Everton will finish above Forest.
Yeah. Well,
that's personally where I see
Horses mentioned, they're closing in on Champions League. And let's not forget, they probably are going to get some points back, aren't they? They're not going to.
Yeah, I think they'll get maybe 3 or 4 points back. Yeah. Andrew Potter asked a question: what cues you to bet on a game in running, especially an in running over? That is a really, really good question, Andrew. And there's some people out there who have the software and they have the stats, and when it hits a certain number, the computer will tell them to back the over or the under. Now, that's not how I work. I'm more of an eye test man in running. I'm kind of old. I feel kind of old saying a bit old school, really. But I can just, I've always said I have a great knack down the years of predicting and knowing when one goal is going to be scored in, say, the next 10 or 20 minutes. Yeah. Now, after that, it's really hard to predict because goals change games.
Yeah.
They completely change the dynamics. But I've always had this knack of just kind of sensing when there's one goal coming. Mm-hmm. And that is when my favorite time to bet on an over is around about 55 minutes to 65 minutes in the second half. Generally, you're going to get a goal line of about 1 or 1.25 more than what it is. So you're only going to need one more goal to not lose everything.
Yeah.
That's my personal strike point. Now, you're more of a metrics man, Jack. So I'm guessing you might go down the stats angle if you're looking in running for you.
Yeah, I think so, generally speaking. And I like to play on that goal line normally a little bit later as well. I like to get a little bit more bang for my buck when I'm going on to that one. I love if it's a 0-0, I love an over 1 Asian. It used to be round about 70, 75 minutes and you'd be getting decent odds on it, plus money on it. That's changed a bit now, hasn't it? Of course, with the fact that especially in the Premier League, we're looking at normally having another 8 or 10 minutes at the end of that game. So a little knack that if you are watching the game and you notice there's been a bit of injury time, it's not quite so important these days because of the kind of standard extra added on time. But sometimes you can think, oh, I know there's going to be 5-6 minutes added here as opposed to 3 or 4.
That's a very good point. You know if there's been an injury.
Yeah.
And the books do supposedly factor it in, but sometimes they don't.
And you can see when they haven't, you will get that similar, the pattern that you, once you don't do it enough, you know roughly that it's going to be plus money around about 72 minutes or, a little bit later than that now, but it's that kind of mark. And you go, that's not been factored in because it's hit the line when we expect it to hit the line. And then when you'll notice that when it gets to the board going up, the line will jump back or the odds will jump back again. So I think that's a key thing. If you can get a bit of an edge on that, if there's been a long injury or delay of some description and that you can see the referees doing the old, I'm adding this on, that's to get on board with that. But yeah, I think the XG stuff, people hate it, people love it. I know you're a fan yourself, aren't you? But
I am, but sometimes I believe I look too much into XG sometimes.
I'll tell you what I'd use it for. In the in-play side of things is if you're watching a game and or maybe you're just new to it, you just flicked it on and you go, oh, this see how this goes, and that might be a bit of frantic action. The XG, I think, is a good indication for me to see how good those chances are, because obviously there is a method to it, there is a mathematics to it. So it's well and good you look at a game and you go, oh, there's been 20 shots in it and 10 of them been on target. But if they're 20 shots from 40 yards out that have gone over the bar
Well,
or
this is a
whatever.
good example of this. On Friday night, I was watching a match in France. It was Montpellier-Lens.
Yeah.
And I was involved in a double. All I needed was over one and a half goals. And it felt like just a really unlucky 0-0 away from watching it. It felt open. There was good chat. Just felt like a game that shouldn't have ended with no goals. I looked at the XG stats after it. There was about 30 shots overall. Yeah. I think XG was about 1.25 versus 1.3.
Yeah.
Which is not low, but it's not high either. And I was thinking that just felt more. Yeah. But realistically, what actually happened in the game, looking back, there wasn't enough big chances.
Yeah.
And that's why the goals didn't come. There weren't enough big chances. So that's where XG, I think, can be really useful. I think XG can be useful if you're not watching a game. Right. So you missed the first half an hour and you look at these games. It's just, sometimes I used to target this. Say you've got a slate of about 8 games in Norway in the middle of summer. And I'm like, which games am I going to target in running? You pick the games where there's more XG and more shots.
Yeah.
Because there's more likely to be goals in those afterwards. So that's what I do. Another strategy for in running is, I know some people bet on teams automatically if they fall behind. Like today, the amount of people that would have bet on Manchester City after falling behind against Luton, it would have been just an automatic play. No matter how bad they're playing, they get on them. Yesterday, Bayern would have cooked a lot of people. Because as soon as they trail 1-0, even bigger, people are going to be getting on them.
Absolutely. Because my phone pinged pretty much immediately after that Luton goal. And sure enough, it was going Man City. I'm on Man City. So, it's I say it's a with sides like Man City, generally speaking, and certainly over the last couple of years, it's been not a bad strategy, has it?
It's not been a bad strategy. It's going to be half time in the match at Tottenham. I'm going to talk you through some lines now. It is half time in Cone. Somehow it has got to 0-0 there at half time. The goal line in running is 1.25. And Cone are actually the favourites now, plus 160. I think pre-game they were the underdog. So clearly the books have adjusted. I'm always reluctant after that when a team might have just, I don't know, they missed their opportunity. And the second half, it can be completely different. So you want to see how the first 10, 15 minutes go. Spurs 2, Tottenham 0 at half time. Newcastle now 28 plus 2,800 to turn it around. The goal line is, you're looking about 3.75, Jack.
Yeah.
And the Asian handicap line, for those who are interested, is sort of plus and minus 0.25 on Spurs Newcastle. Second half, what do you reckon to Tottenham minus 0.25 second half? Would that be a goer for you?
Do you know what? I think Spurs might win the second half. I just think, like, I've repeated myself a few times. You know what I'm going to say, don't you? The fact that I just feel that Newcastle ain't got it in the legs at the minute. And if they are 2 down and it's getting on a bit, are they going to, if they concede a goal early enough in this second half, I think the white flag goes up and then they start wrapping people in cotton wool ready for this massive game in midweek. We've got that to take into account. And of course, Tottenham ain't got that to worry about. They might take Son off because of that injury concern at the start. But other than that, I was then looking to see he's minus, just a fraction minus money for a shot on target in the second half. Something like that wouldn't surprise me with him, with Bet Rivers. I was then looking at the corners lines, things like that. But yeah, I think I'd take Spurs to get another one and win this game second half.
Spurs are plus 110 to keep a clean sheet here, which I wouldn't ever trust them to keep a clean sheet myself. But Newcastle have looked pretty damn, apart from that one chance from Almiron.
Yeah,
they've looked fairly toothless to me. I think if I was to advise a bet right now at half time, it would be on the Asian handicap, Spurs minus 0.25, which is basically if they win the second half, the pick wins. If the second half ends a draw, you only lose half your stake.
Yeah.
So I don't see Newcastle winning the second half, Jack.
I'm with you, mate. I'm with you. I think I think Spurs probably win the second half, but I can't see them losing it. So I think that's the way in on this one. And so with that big game coming up in midweek for Newcastle as the driver for me, because they ain't going to want to risk an injury to Isak, as their only striker. Possibly the likes of Gordon, maybe a couple of the defenders as well. They can't afford that kind of injury. Gamaish maybe. I think if they're struggling second half, I could sense them running the white flag up the pole and taking the loss and moving on and look to get a positive result in midweek.
I think now is the time to get on the over 3 goal line in Lyon against Toulouse. You can get that at about -110, and you just need one more goal in the game for a push. I don't see it ending 2-0. I think Toulouse are having to push here. I wouldn't trust the Lyon defense. Equally, I think Lyon, they've got enough ability up front to get a third goal. The only thing is, I'm always a little bit reluctant with overs when a penalty's been missed. It's amazing the amount of times that missed penalties lead to unders. So, but I think over 3 goal line, based on the pattern of play, I wouldn't be as strong on this as I would Spurs. But I think
would you take that now? Or are you looking for a little bit of a bigger price? Are you going to
No, I'm happy. I'm happy with over 3 around even money. This is now 56 minutes on the clock. You've got 35 minutes plus stoppage time to get 1 goal at worst.
Yeah.
And that's my sort of bet. It's not as wide open as I want it to be, but you think logically it should open up more. Toulouse are going to have to go for it. Even if Lyon try and park the bus, they'll probably get too deep, and Toulouse will create some. Toulouse aren't, I don't know about, they're a tough team to read, actually. They've shown in Europe this season they can play. So it's a tricky one there. But yeah, I think that will probably do it. There's a couple of quotes. Arthur Bushby, he's not too convinced that Everton will get in the Champions League this season. I just want to, before we go, I want to tell you what the price is for Everton to get in the Champions League, in the top 4 places. And it is, what's this? Plus 450,000.
Oh, mate, that's
what if they got, just say they got their 10 points back.
Right. Well, I know that price would change, wouldn't it?
It would. I don't think it's going to happen, but
no.
This is a side that's currently 4th bottom, but it's playing realistically at top,
great form,
mid-table. Yeah,
they were up there prior to that points deduction, weren't they? They were like in the top 5 or 6 as far as form was concerned. Then we're just then quickly going to have a look to see where they're at the moment. But they're doing exceptionally well prior to that, and look, they've picked themselves up since that, haven't they? And they've come in and fired, and fair play to them for that. Sean Dyche, you got to say, has done a great job there.
Top 10 market would be interesting if there was one. Anyway, that's going to do it for this live reaction show today, Jack. Let's hope we can get cash and winners in this second half in all the games that we've been covering.
Just very quickly, can I tell you who's top?
Yes.
Who's top of the form table in the Premier League over the last 5 games?
Fulham, probably.
Bournemouth.
I mean, we were on about Iraola losing his job. I mean, we to be fair, I've got this wrong as well, because I thought that his style in the Premier League would not be, I didn't think he got the players for it, right? Yeah. But for some, he managed to turn it around. A bit of patience there. I think one win just got the players, in confident mood, and showing what. I don't think we ever doubted the coach in terms of what he's capable of coaching.
You talked about Dom Solanke. We had a chat, didn't we, early on today about, and you mentioned Dom Solanke, and he's the guy who's had a lot of potential years ago, and is now seemingly he's firing this season into a decent striker, to say the least.
I still think it was a risk getting Iraola in, but I think it showed ambition from Bournemouth as well. And if at the minute, by the way, I would still fancy playing against them, because I think if you nail it when they're too aggressive and overcommit, you can get right in behind them.
You should score against them, shouldn't you? You should do.
Yeah, well, yeah. You weren't happy with Man United yesterday, were you, Jack? No. It's the nature of the beast in the Premier League.
Things happen.
Things happen.
Do you know what? Going like people talk about, like, oh, you're rubbish, you're losing runs and this, that, and the other, and so on and so forth. Those bets yesterday, I lost all 3 this weekend. Certainly those 2 yesterday, I think were right bets, wrong outcome for me, and I'd back them again. I felt that they were the right calls.
It's a long-term game, and you've been in great form. You'd had like 2-3 straight clean sweeps near enough, but you can lose. I was very close to losing both official plays I put up yesterday on the European show. Bayern was the worst bet I've had. I mean, that's I can't think of a worse bet all year from me anyway. And I nicked a push in the Rennes game, but that's the game. Sometimes you got to nick pushes.
And both those games kind of went how I expected them to go. Like the 2 in the Premier League yesterday, I expected Burnley to score against Brighton. I expected Brighton to create lots and lots of chances, and they did. Well, they had best part of 30 shots, 10 on target. That's as good as you're going to get if you want a side to win 2.
You've got to keep backing yourself. There's going to be
it's a long-term game.
Periods. Exactly. And there's going to be haters out there. There's going to be abuse, and I totally get it sometimes. There was someone commented on the Bayern pick yesterday. I'll give them that because that's not often that I say I apologise. That was just a shocking read on my behalf, and that those are the sort of results where you do look at yourself. And you have to say, well, how have I got that wrong? So
the great thing about the Because We Win team is we've all been around the block a few times. We've all got a track record over the years, and it's dealing with those results and having that confidence in yourself that that will turn. And fair play is one of those. It's quite tough to deal with that, isn't it? But once you overcome that situation, you've got to kind of blank your mind out and stop second guessing yourself, and you just go with what trust your process.
100%. That's a good bit of advice for everyone as we leave the show now. Thanks to anyone who joined us live or watched on demand. Some interesting stuff there, Jack. And I don't think I'll be on the show before Christmas, so I have to wish you all the best of festive greetings to you down there in the southeast.
Yes, and to you. You stay nice and safe and dry up there up north.
Well, it's been cold recently, as you can see. The fleece is on, and the raincoat was on out there. Pretty much the whole of
your ducks must be loving it.
They are loving it. They're absolutely enjoying life so much. So my goose is loving it as well. Not sure she'll like it as much when Christmas comes around. No, I'm only joking. All right, take care, Jack.
Happy Christmas to you and to everyone watching, listening, and whatever.
All right, goodbye. See you. Look out for some more shows this week. Champions League, Europa League shows should be live Monday night. Awesome. But see you next week on the reaction show. I think Rui Barlow will be joining me, so take care.
Spanish expert talking about Girona's victory over Barcelona tonight.
We'll see you around. Take care.
See you, mate. Cheers.